Chapter 10, Caroline McNutt. The meeting is in the library at 3:30 sharp, I tell the kids waiting in line at the used tray return in the cafeteria. You don't want to miss it. I don't know. Tabitha Willebrand makes a face. I've got plans at 4. Some friends are going to the mall. Bring them along, I urge. We need everybody's ideas. We're going to decide on what to do about the swastikas once and for all. When she doesn't answer, I add, Link's going to be there. No way, she says flatly. Link Rowley at a student council meeting? He personally promised me. And she upgrades her RSVP to a maybe. I always knew that we could get more people excited about student government if the popular kids were more into it. Link probably means Jordy, since they're the top jocks. Jordy probably means Pamela, since they've been basically engaged since Gymboree. It's like dominoes. Once they start knocking each other down, who knows where it's going to end? I'm a little conflicted, since I'm against the idea of everybody worshiping the so-called cool crowd. But if Link's name can bring a decent turnout to this very important meeting, then it's worth it. I try again in the second floor bathroom with the small group of girls hanging around the sinks. Don't forget the student council meeting after school. Link wants everybody to be there. And later at the drinking fountain. 3:30 in the library, student council meeting. Don't let Link down. Sophie chokes over a mouthful. You're bugging. No way Link's going to that. Oh, yes, he is. He told me at lunch. Sophie doesn't look convinced. On the other hand, she has not just a Link connection, but a Jordy connection and a Pamela connection too. I'd bet money that she's already wondering why Link ate lunch with us today instead of with her and Pamela. If Sophie spreads the word, we might need a bigger room. Either way, it's bound to be better than our last meeting, where not a single person showed up except me, and that includes the other council members. Sure enough, when I make my way to the library after last period, the chairs are filled and there are even a few standees at the back. It isn't the vast mob scene I'd been hoping for, but there must be 40 kids, maybe 50. I get a little teary-eyed at the sight of them. This is what school government is about. Students uniting to take on a tough problem that affects all of us. Okay, I understand that most of them only came because of the rumors I started about Link. The important thing is they're here, so I've got them. Only, I scan the room. Where is Link? I see Dana sitting next to Michael and Andrew. Tabitha came. So did Sophie, who's with Jordy, Pamela, and Clayton Pouncey. They're standing next to the door, probably so they can make their escape if the meeting isn't exciting enough. Come to think of it, a lot of the attendees are peering expectantly into the hall. If Link doesn't show, I have a feeling I'm going to be alone again. I consider asking Mr. Bredamus to lock the library doors from the outside, but that might violate the fire code. Bummer. Daniel Faraz, the 8th grade president, leans over to me. What's the deal, Caroline? You said Link's going to be here. I'm panicking now. I never told you that. I'm sweating big time. I have no answer. But at that moment, Link strolls in, the school hero, fashionably late. There's an audible sigh of relief in the room, most of it from me. Mr. Bredamus quiets everybody down and signals Daniel to start the meeting. Technically, he's top banana as president of the 8th grade, even though he only ran for office to impress Susie Kraft, who dumped him anyway the day after the election. We start off with this whole debate about whether or not the minibus that takes the mathletes to the big tournament in Denver has Wi-Fi or not. I feel like my head is going to explode. Somebody is drawing symbols of racial hatred all over the school and we're talking about Wi-Fi? I can see kids' eyes glazing over. Sophie and her crew are inching toward the door. Oh no! I'm going to lose this crowd I worked so hard to gather. I leap to my feet. I move that the Wi-Fi question should be brought up at the next meeting. Anybody opposed? No? Motion passed. Everybody claps. I wasn't expecting it, but I'll take it. Daniel sits down, looking like he's accomplished something. Finally, it's my turn. I had a long speech planned, but at the last second, I junk it. Nobody loves political theater more than me, but something really awful has been going on, and the best approach is just to be honest. Let's talk about the swastikas. Yeah, I know everybody's against them, but they keep coming. I turn to the principal. And no offense, Mr. Bredamus, but tolerance education isn't working, and we can't do it forever anyway. We have to try something new. I look out over the crowd. No one is leaving now. Kids seem interested and serious. Heads are nodding in agreement, and at least a dozen hands go up. I call on people to have their say. And it isn't just Dana and Michael and Andrew and the other minority students who have the most reason to feel threatened. You hear about this kind of thing happening in other places, but I never thought it would come to Chokecherry. It makes everyone in our town look like idiots. My parents are thinking about moving out of the county. I hate coming to school in the morning. You never know what you're going to find on what wall. Real Talk is telling the whole internet we're not our lives because of one bad apple. For all we know, the person behind this isn't even a true racist, just a joker with a sick sense of humor. It isn't our job to stop this. We should wait for the police to catch the perpetrator. I don't agree with everybody, but there are no jerks. All the opinions are thoughtful and sincere. I feel a surge of energy. This is democracy. Mr. Bredamus looks at his watch. You all bring up excellent points. What we need now are suggestions, a plan of action. Where do we? I can't think of anything to say. You can talk about a problem all day long, but coming up with a solution, that's a lot harder. Dana speaks up. Most of us aren't bad people inside, but obviously there's at least one. I wish it was different, but there's nothing we can do. Coming from a girl everyone knows is Jewish, the words land hard. That's not good enough. All eyes turn to Link. He's the reason most of them are even here, but this is the first time he's opened his mouth. It's easy for you to say, Link tells Dana. Your folks will dig up a few more dinosaur bones and you'll be gone. The rest of us have to live here. You see how bad it gets. First it's swastikas, and soon everybody's talking about the 70s and burning crosses and the KKK. The paperclip school in Tennessee is right near where the Klan got its start, and they didn't just let it go. They did something about it. You think we should collect paperclips too? Jordy asks. During World War II, the people of Norway wore paperclips on their clothes as a protest against the Nazis. Mr. Bredamus puts in. But in Whitwell, the point wasn't so much the paperclips as the number. Who can even imagine 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust? The collection was to give the students a picture of 6 million anything. Each paperclip corresponded to a life exterminated for nothing, and the enormity of the collection represented the vastness of the crime against humanity. The paperclip idea was great, I offer, but we shouldn't have to copy another school. Why can't we come up with our own collection? Something that represents our town. How about chokecherries? Daniel suggests. Every bush in the foothills is full of them. Mr. Bredamus steps in. I love the symbolism, Daniel, but it isn't practical. Paperclips don't rot. Berries do. Ever eat those things? Pouncey puts in. It's like a stress test for your plumbing. An animated babble rises from the crowd. Everybody has a story to tell about the dangers of eating too many chokecherries. They aren't poison, but I can't remember ever having such miserable cramps. Let's just say that if all you do is choke on them, you're getting off easy. Focus, people, I exclaim in an effort to get the crowd back on topic. If we put our minds together, we can come up with the perfect thing. First, it can't be something that goes bad. Second, we need to be able to get 6 million of it, so it can't be too big or heavy or expensive. And third, it has to show whoever's doing the swastikas that we're all connected as a school community, and one evil person can't break us apart. A chain! Michael, who's head of the art club, stands up, his face alight with excitement. A paper chain with 6 million links. As soon as the words are out of his mouth, I know it's right. A paper chain, interlocking loops of multicolored construction paper, 6 million of them for the 6 million Jewish lives snuffed out during the Holocaust. But it's also a picture of unity, the interconnecting links like a long line of people standing arm in arm against intolerance and hate. I'm not the only one who loves the idea. The crowd starts buzzing about it. It's just so possible. We've all been making paper chains since we were in kindergarten. Now wait just a minute. Mr. Bredamus holds up a hand. Let's consider the logistics. Paper clips come in boxes of hundreds or more. A paper chain has to be made one link at a time. Cut the paper, form the loop, glue it closed. 6 million is an awfully big number. Something, not just buying something. It's an even better way to experience how huge 6 million is. And it wouldn't just be us, I add. The whole school would be helping. We only have a little over 600 students, the principal reasons. Even with everyone participating, that would mean each and every one of us would have to be responsible for 10,000 links of chain. It's not realistic to think we could accomplish it. That dumps a bucket of water on the campfire, and the buzz in the room dies down a little. It's Link, of all people, who comes to the rescue. Maybe that's the whole point. 6 million isn't supposed to be easy. Can every kid in school make 10,000 links for a paper chain? I don't know. But by trying, we're going to understand just how many people were killed during the Holocaust, like my grandmother's whole family. Mr. Bredemus sits forward in amazement. Like your grandmother's? Surely you're not implying... Would you explain that, please, Lincoln? At lunch, when Link said he was Jewish, I figured he was just being dramatic about how anti-swastika he was. But the story he tells us has all our jaws hanging open. Link's grandmother is a Holocaust survivor. Even though it happened so many years ago and so far away, our school has a direct connection to the Holocaust. If that's not a sign that the paper chain project is the way to go, I don't know what is. All eyes are on Mr. Bredemus. The principal is sweating now. If he shuts this idea down after what we've just heard, he's a cockroach doing the backstroke in the iced tea pitcher. Maybe I tricked most of the kids into coming by dropping Link's name, but he's turned out to be the star of the meeting. When Mr. Bredemus finally speaks, his words are slow and deliberate, like he's choosing them very carefully. So long as everybody understands that we're probably not going to make it anywhere near 1 million, much less 6, then I think it's a worthy response to the person or persons who have been defacing our building. He probably has more to say, but everybody bursts into applause and cheers, drowning him out. At least a dozen people swarm around Link, battering him with backslaps and high fives. That's a little annoying, since it was Michael's idea, not his. Why do the popular people always get even more popular? But I have no complaints, because this was the best student council meeting I've ever had. To see a whole group of kids so excited about a school activity that they howl with joy when we get to the go-ahead is a dream come true. I get so wrapped up in the moment that I holler, 3 cheers for student government! It wrecks the mood. I get a lot of weird looks as people file out of the library. Even Mr. Bredemus is shaking his head. I don't care. The paper chain project is on, and that's the main thing. Chapter 11, Lincoln Rowley. Watching soccer practice brings me a pang that's part longing, part regret, and part resentment. How can they have the team without me? Stupid, I know. Nobody's going to cancel the season because of one kid, no matter how good he is. But it hurts seeing Jordy on the field in my striker spot, doing passing drills with Eric Fedorov, the 8th grader who's our captain. I feel yet another flash of anger toward Dad. It's his fault I'm on the sidelines. I have a brief vision of the semi sliding across the intersection into that pole, the showers of sparks from the damaged transformer. I wish I could say it was worth it, but it wasn't. I'm always doing stuff like that because of how funny it'll be. And it never is. You think I'd learn. The more hilarious the prank, the angrier it makes everybody, including me. Anyway, if there ever was a sports season to miss, this is the one. I'm studying for my bar mitzvah, and the paper chain is supposed to start tomorrow, so maybe this is for the best. Didn't expect to see you here, comes a voice from over my shoulder. Pouncey is flat on his back across the 3rd row of bleachers, a half-open eye on me. Just because I'm off the team doesn't mean I can't come support Jordy, I tell him. He sits up. Yeah, but shouldn't you be moaning and groaning in some foreign language? I laugh. It only sounds like moaning and groaning. It's really saying stuff. Rabbi Gold is teaching me what it means. That's important because I have to write a speech about it. He's horrified. A speech? Man, what else do you have to do? Stick flaming bamboo under your fingernails? I'm also learning a lot about the history of Judaism, I admit. I used to know this kid named Link Rowley, Pouncey informs me. You would have liked him.
If anybody asked him to do extra school or sing in Hebrew or make a speech, he would have laughed in their faces. And the last thing he ever would have thought of would be to get his whole school working on a paper chain.
Hey, you can't pin the paper chain on me, I retort. It wasn't even my idea. That was Michael. On the field, a whistle ends soccer practice, and Jordy heads toward us. From the track, Pamela and Sophie jog over.
The rabbi's here, Pouncey announces with a thumb in my direction.
I feel my face flaming red. Give it a break, you guys. Sophie gives me a probing look. What's the deal with you and Dana Levinson? Is she your girlfriend now? Of course she's not my girlfriend. I don't have a girlfriend. You eat lunch with her every day, Pamela persists. So I can ask her questions, I try to explain. She had a bat mitzvah, that's the girl version. This whole thing is so new to me, I need help. So why do it at all? Jordy says. Stick with us, you don't need help with what we do.
We're basic, Pouncey puts in proudly.
It's still me, I say stubbornly. This thing with my grandmother hit me really hard. She isn't Jewish either, Jordy argues. Oh yeah? I challenge. If her parents hadn't hidden her with the nuns and the Nazis had gotten hold of her, do you think they would have considered her not Jewish? Even me. Okay, I wasn't alive back then, but if I had been, what would have happened to a guy with my relatives? That Holocaust unit, that could have been me. They're quiet for a long moment. Finally, Jordy says, Dude, it's only one syllable, but it speaks paragraphs. That's why I feel like I have to try this, I tell them. Being Jewish, Sophie finishes, still skeptical. Let's just start with a bar mitzvah. I'll figure out the rest of it as it comes up. For all I know, I'll wake up on December 5th and it'll be totally out of my system. Just in time for Christmas, Jordy observes optimistically.
You're not trying to double dip, are you? Pouncey asks suspiciously. Like rake in the Hanukkah presents and then switch back on Christmas Eve?
It isn't about presents, I insist. I don't know what it's about, but I need to find out. Then we're with you all the way, Pamela assures me, and Jordy and Sophie chime in their agreement.
Are you guys with me all the way? Pouncey demands. I'm starting my own religion and the festival of eating sacred pizza is coming up. Your treat.
It breaks the mood. Everybody laughs. Leave it to Pouncey to cap off the conversation with something nuts. But I can't help thinking back to Pamela when she told me how supported I am. The look on her face seemed to say she thought this was idiotic and she didn't support it one bit. For all I know, none of them do. Chapter 12. Michael Amorosa. Me and my big mouth. I'm the one who's always complaining about everybody using the art club as a free poster making service. And what do? Sign up for 6 million paper chain links. Okay, Mr. Berdamus only gave us the green light because he's positive we're not going to get anywhere near that number. Even if we had the time and the ability, we'd run out of construction paper long before we got close. There probably isn't that much construction paper in all of Colorado. 6 million links might as well be infinity links. And when we don't make it, who is everybody going to blame? Me and my big mouth. Actually, I think Mr. Berdamus would have said no if it wasn't for the story about Link's grandmother. That blew everybody's mind, including the principal's. A whole family wiped out except for one little baby. No wonder Link wants to have a bar mitzvah. I don't know how I'd react, but I think I'd want to find a way to connect to the heritage I never knew I had, especially when fresh swastikas are popping up all around me every day. The latest is on the ice cream freezer in the cafeteria. Everyone was more upset at not getting ice cream than they were about finding another you-know-what. Maybe we're the wrong school to take on a 6 million link paper chain. Or maybe that proves we need the paper chain project more than anybody. So far, nobody has the faintest idea who the swastika guy, or swastika girl, might be. The police have been hanging around the school a lot, interviewing kids and keeping their eyes open. Maybe their plan is to keep the pressure on until the guilty party breaks down and confesses. I'm not holding my breath. To paint one swastika on a wall, all you have to be is a jerk. But anybody rotten enough to do 14 of them? and to keep on doing it even though the whole town is freaking out over them, that person isn't going to lose their nerve just because there are a few cops around. To be honest, I don't have a lot of faith in Sheriff Okasek's investigation. For starters, I'm still a prime suspect because I'm the only person who was ever caught alone with one of the swastikas. It's not just that, the sheriff tells me. You're the head of the art club, right? You've got the key to that supply closet. Lots of paint in there, including spray paint. But, swastika guy might be great at holding up under pressure. I'm pure mush. Why would I do anything like that? Maybe you're the kind of kid to light a spark in the barn just to watch it burn. One thing I've learned in my years in law enforcement, if you commit to any one theory of what's in a perp's head, you'll miss what's right in front of your face. That's cop talk for perpetrator. He hands me his business card from the Shadbush County Sheriff's Department. Anytime you feel like talking, he invites, oh, and your parents already have my card just in case you lose yours. Perpetrator. I never thought I'd hear the word being used to describe me. Perpetrator of a poster, maybe, not perpetrator of a crime. I swear I feel like an axe murderer, even though I'm totally innocent. I would make the world's lousiest crook. Which brings up the ultimate question. If I'm not doing it, who is? I almost feel like I have to solve the mystery myself just to get the sheriff off my back. The problem with mysteries is they're mysteries. If any bozo could figure them out, then they wouldn't be mysteries, would they? So I think long and hard. Who's behind the swastikas? Who in this school could have a motive for doing something so upsetting to so many people? It's such an awful thing to accuse a person of that I almost can't do it. As soon as I come up with a suspect, I think, no, not possible. I feel so bad that Sheriff Okasek seems to think it's me that I hesitate to try to pin it on anybody else. Then I picture myself being blamed for something I absolutely didn't do, and I force myself to put together a list. 1. Christopher Salas is the first name that comes to mind. He's just the worst kid in school, mean to basically everybody. If in-school suspension gave frequent flyer miles, he'd be in Bali by now, probably drawing swastikas on the beach. He picks on the art club, but I can't really take that personally because he also picks on the science fair kids and the mathletes. He's an equal opportunity moron with the disposition of a honey badger. Plus, the whole town saw him whitewashing the curse words he painted on the parking lot of St. Basil's, so it's not like vandalism isn't already in his bag of tricks. 2. Clayton Pouncey. He's kind of an oddball. His dad is locally renowned as a jerk and a bigot, and there's a rumor that his grandfather was involved with the KKK and the Night of 1,000 Flames. A lot of people say that never happened. Pouncey isn't one of them, but he still has to be a prime suspect. 3. Jordy Duros. I've overheard him putting people down. It's usually not racist, but sometimes he gets pretty close to the line. I used to think he was just one of those popular kids who lets it go to his head. Then I heard that the swastika on the dumpster was painted in roofing tar, and everybody knows Jordy's family runs the only roofing business in town. 4. Caroline McNutt. This sounds crazy, and I'm probably wrong. Caroline doesn't have a racist bone in her body, and she's not a vandal or any kind of evil person. But she's always talking about how brain dead our school is, and how we have zero spirit and never get involved the way other middle schools do. She practically lost her mind with happiness when the student council meeting got a decent turnout. Would she go so far as to paint swastikas just to rally the troops and get us all riled up to work on some project? Maybe not, but I can't rule it out. 5. The 8th graders. Well, not all of them, obviously. Still, whenever you hear grumbling about how tolerance education is worthless and what's so bad about a few swastikas, it mostly comes from them. True, 8th graders are pretty negative. I might be that way too next year. But Christopher Salas is an 8th grader. And Eric Fedorov, Alpha Jock, legend in his own mind. And Liza Guilfoyle, queen bee of the school. I'm just getting started here. 6. Mr. Kennedy. Who says Sheriff Okasek is right that the perp has to be a kid? The custodian was in the building when the first swastika was painted. He could have done the deed and waited for someone to find it. And while I doubt Mr. Kennedy has a connection to the KKK or any hate groups, He is a pretty crabby guy. I almost don't blame him. Anytime somebody barfs in the hall or there's a food fight in the cafeteria, guess who has to clean it up? And let's face it, middle school students aren't the politest people on the planet. What if the swastikas have nothing to do with racism? What if they're Mr. Kennedy's way of getting even with us kids? It's a lot of possibilities to juggle, especially for someone as busy as I am. Caroline appoints me official art director of the paper chain, which means I'm going to have to do most of it and supervise the rest. She makes herself project manager, positioning herself perfectly to boss people around, including me. Mr. Berdamus officially kicks off the paper chain on the morning announcements Thursday. By lunch, it's on everyone's lips. All anybody's talking about is how we're going to be up to our butts in paper links thanks to a kid named Link. That's what passes for comedy in this school. Caroline is complaining that the cool people get credit for everything around here. Like Link being popular has anything to do with what we're making our paper chain out of. Sometimes I worry about that girl. If you're older than about 6, you've probably made a paper chain or two in your life. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do. First, you take construction paper and cut it into strips about 2 inches wide and 8 or 9 inches long. You can do that with scissors, but it's a lot faster if you use those guillotine things schools have. Then, you just glue the ends together so they form a loop. Presto, a link. You do the same thing with the next one, only this time you thread it through the first link, and so on until you hit 6 million, or until your fingers fall off. We start after school. I'm impressed with the team that shows up. Most of the art club, a lot of kids from the meeting, and about 20 6th graders. You know how 8th graders are anti-everything? Well, 6th graders are the opposite of that. They're super gung-ho since being in middle school is still a big deal for them. Give them a year. They'll wise up. I'm surprised to see Pouncy and Jordy among the crew, and I question whether I was wrong to put them on my suspect list. On the other hand, those two are tight with Link. Where he goes, they usually follow. Besides, there's no law that says you can't paint swastikas and still be part of the group making a paper chain to fight against them. Actually, it could be the perfect plan to keep suspicion from falling on you. Anyway, it's a good turnout. Almost too good since we're bumping into each other in the art room. Even though we're making one giant paper chain, we've actually got about a dozen of them under construction. We'll hook everything into a single unit later on. I'm expecting the usual art club squabbles, arguments over who's a cutter and who's a gluer, or whether it's too clashy to put orange next to red. This is different. Jordy refers to Pamela's designer yoga pants as leggings, and she storms out, ripping one of the chains under construction right down the middle. Pouncy refuses to work unless he's in charge of the guillotine, and he gets pretty obnoxious about it. Andrew slips in a puddle of spilled glue and knocks himself unconscious on the floor. By the time the nurse gets there to take him to the emergency room, his shirt is stuck to the tiles, and he has to be cut free with an X-Acto knife. The 6th graders are determined to make more links than everybody else, so they skimp on the glue and their chain comes apart. One of them cries. Tabitha gets a paper cut and freaks out. Link gets on a Zoom bar mitzvah lesson, and we have to turn off the music so he can hear his rabbi. For the rest of the afternoon, we work to the tune of a Hebrew chant and Link struggling to repeat it. Around 5 o'clock, kids start leaving to go home. Our production actually improves since the art room isn't so crowded anymore and we're not getting in each other's way. Link's lesson ends, so we've got the music back on. It's even starting to be kind of fun when Pouncy comes running back from a bathroom break, his face grave. Guys, they found another swastika. It's burned into one of the lab tables in the science room. Mr. Kennedy says they used acid. Caroline turns off the music, and we just stand there for a moment, looking at each other. When I found that original swastika, I was terrified, almost like I believed it could peel itself off the wall and squeeze the life out of me like a boa constrictor. But, sad to say, we're used to them now. They make us feel helpless, frustrated and angry. They create something in the pit of our stomachs that stirs up those emotions and more. And sure, fear is part of it, but not the biggest part. Not anymore. At first, I assume everyone is just going to leave. It's late and the mood is definitely broken. But that's not what happens. Instead, we get back to work, silently, efficiently, and with purpose. The blade arm of Pouncy's guillotine moves like a piston. Dollops of glue land on colored paper and fingers form loop after loop. Our chains grow faster and faster until it seems as if we can churn out our 6 million in one day. The swastika in the science room hasn't stopped us. It's given us rocket fuel. The worst part of what's happening to us has always been that we have no way to fight back, until now. This? Amazing! It's almost like we're coming out of our trance and noticing it for the first time. Lengths of colorful paper chain hang from hooks all around the room. They pool onto the floor and stretch across the tables. How many do you think we've got? Link asks. As art director, I've been keeping count in a notebook. I log in the last few links of production to make sure I'm up to date and deliver the answer. 973 links. It seems like an awful lot for just one day, but when 6 million is the number you're up against, it's pretty puny. I do some quick calculating on my phone. At this rate, we'll reach 6 million in a little under 17 years. The sound of everyone's hopes deflating is almost a sucking inside the room. We'll never get there, Jordy exclaims. I'll be like 30, Sophie muses mournfully. Remember what we talked about, Mr. Bredamus puts in. We're not going to get obsessed with the numbers. This is incredibly impressive, and it's only the first day. You should be proud of yourselves. I'm proud of you. Plus, we're not the whole school, says Caroline, who always has something to add. If we could get everybody working on this, who knows how high we could get? Everybody perks up. You all look exhausted, the principal informs us. Go home, have a good dinner and a restful sleep. We'll get back to this tomorrow. Out in the hall, I watch closely as Mr. Bredamus locks the art room door. I know it's just a bunch of paper links, but for some reason, they feel really important.